Hello and welcome to Katie's Photoshop tutorial number 4. Today we are going to talk about adding an image, a photograph or a picture to your canvas and how to remove background and transform it a little bit. So to start, the first thing we need to do is we've got our canvas from before. We are going to go to the internet and choose an image that we might like to add to our canvas. So I'm going to just type in puppy dogs. I happen to like dogs a lot. If I go to images, we've got just the cutest little dog. So I'm going to start with this one, and he looks adorable. If I right click and I copy my image, and I go back to my Photoshop canvas, to get it onto my canvas, I'm going to go edit and then paste. So here's my adorable little dog. From here, if I select Control Plus, or if I go View, Zoom in, I can Control Plus and zoom in, Control minus, and zoom out. So if I zoom in, I'm going to take the white background off of this image. To do that, there are a couple different options. One of the options is this wand tool. It's quick selection right now, but if I right click it and change it to magic wand tool, and if I select an area, you'll see it'll highlight that associated area, that color. Then if I press delete, it'll delete. And I'm going to Control Alt Z to reverse. And so that's one option. That's under wand or quick selection, magic wand tool. I also can move down to my eraser tool, and which is the E shortcut. And if I right click and go magic eraser tool, it'll essentially do the same thing, but without me having to press delete. So if I select my area, there's my puppy with the background cut out. And then I'm going to, oops. So I went too far taking an image or going Control Alt Z. So if I go undo, step forward, my dog will come back. That's just a quick little tip. One of my other options is to use the marquee tool, or excuse me, the lasso tool. So the lasso tool is essentially, I'm just going to use it quickly here. You can cut out an image as long as you connect it to where it began. And then if I were to right click and go select inverse, I can then press delete on my keyboard, and everything else that I didn't select will stay put. So Control Z, again I went too far, step forward. So that's the lasso tool. There's also the polygonal lasso tool, and that's good for shapes. So if I click, you can see it just creates straight lines. If I press delete and I wanted to cut out shapes, I could do that. Control Z. And then the last one, probably one of the trickiest tools to use, one of the most useful, is this magnetic lasso tool. So magnetic lasso tool is definitely, like I said, a little tricky. And what it does is it outlines your image. The easiest way to use it is to click frequently so that you're anchoring to your image. And it's important to keep your arm or your hand under control, because if you start to drag your mouse, this is essentially what's going to happen. And then you won't be able to get out of it until you connect it to its beginning spot. And then if you want to start over, you can just click out. But you'll see, as long as you're on that tool, it'll drag everywhere. So again, it can be quite tricky. I go up to this marquee tool and click off in the gray, it'll get rid of that tool for me. So I'm going to recenter my image, and I'm going to do this again the right way. So if I come up here and I go to my magnetic lasso tool, I'm going to start highlighting the outline of my dog again. So I'm just dragging it along. Can click to anchor again. I'm not doing it quite as exact as I would normally. And then if I get to To begin, I click to connect. Then from here, I'm going to right click just like I did before and go select inverse and then press delete. And what you'll see is my adorable little doggy. I'm going to go up to the marquee tool and click to get rid of the ants. Then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And you can see I left a bit of white. I'm just going to take the regular eraser tool. So if I right click my magic eraser, go to my eraser tool and make it a little bit smaller, although it's pretty small to start with. Yep. And then I'm just going to go along the edges and kind of just take off a little bit of that white. So some of the spots that are a little, I can just stamp a little bit. Here are the ears. Being careful, so I'm going to Control-Z that spot because I took away a little bit of his head. I might want to make my brush even a little bit smaller. Alright, so I've done a bit of cleaning up. Notice maybe some of your edges are a little rough looking. So for example, oops. So let's say right there, I've got a little bit of a rough because I took too much out. I go to my blur tool, it looks like a raindrop. And if I right click it and just make sure it's on blur, I can essentially, and I can change the size of my brush, but I can blur the little edges. And you might not be able to tell a ton, but it really makes a difference for when you zoom out. So if I just go around the edges very lightly, only if my edges are looking a little rough, I can blur them. And then if I zoom out, I've got my dog. So definitely not perfect, but much better than what it looked like before. So that is adding an image. You can see it started on a new layer over here. And I can hide my layer. If I click the eyeball next to it, I can hide any of my layers so that I can see just one or two or however many, which helps me to work. If the text was distracting me, I could get rid of it so I could focus just on my doggy image. So with that, we have we've added an image, we have cut out the background. Now let's say we want to make it a little bigger or smaller. So to do that, if I go to image and then, or excuse me, go to edit and then transform and then scale, I'm going to get this box to make my image larger or smaller. And if I hold down the shift key while I'm in the corner, I can zoom in or zoom out. So I can make it larger. Just like my text, I'm going to commit my changes. And then using my move tool, I can move it around. Can also, just like I did with my name, edit, transform. I can rotate. Can I also skew, distort, put in perspective, or warp? And I'll let you play around with all of those. But for right now, I can drag it. I can rotate it a little bit if I'd like. Again, accepting changes and moving it around. So I just wanted to peek out from underneath my name. So that is, again, how to move make an image larger and how to transform it a little bit.